What's up? It's Matt Hill. Uh, it's an introductory video to what I call the Ruthless Circle. So, give you a brief rundown. But done 4.5 years in DOC. Pretty much straight. I had a few months in between before I was reincarcerated. A short period of time I had out. Had a pretty rough go at it. My wife for 14 years, me and her divorced. At the same time, my mother's dying of lung cancer. It was a pretty hard time, and some things happened in my life. And I had a revelation one night. Kicked out of a couple stores, and I was walking down the road, cars were swerving at me. I said, something many white folks say, they treat me like an NIGGER, and I'm like, that moment, something come over me, black light of freedom, spiritual freedom. It said, man, this is really what it's like to be an African American. This is, I should have clicked in the penitentiary, but it didn't. But my second, 16 months incarcerated, after that, I was able to put pen to paper and put my mind to the pen, and take a deeper look into what I call the African American Holocaust, because what the African Americans face is nothing short of a Holocaust. It is actually far greater than the Holocaust. We spent $1 trillion to liberate the ghettos in Europe. At the same time, spending trillions of dollars building ghettos here. So the ghettos in Europe house white folks, and the ghettos here in America house African Americans. So the mass majority of, anyways. Dr. King said in 1963, the vast majority of my Negro brothers and sisters are smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. Well, that airtight cage is the ghetto. What we know is the ghetto. Ghettos are by design to control the people. That's what Hitler used it for. That's what we use it for, is to control the people. It's a cage. You cage things so you can control. It's a controlled experiment, if you will. You know what I mean? So we control what goes in. We control the air. Throughout these videos, I'm hoping to bring some light to it. And I'm working on putting an organization together to kind of a political action network to, I've identified some things that I think can bring some relief to the African American people. Things such as, chest cams in predominantly African American communities for all law enforcement, including undercover agents. We got to take an inside look at why the ratio of citizens to the incarcerated are so high with the African Americans. In 2021, it's the lowest it's ever been. They stand at about 52% of the prison population, yet they're only 14% of the U.S. population. As white folks, we're approximately 7 to 10% of the prison population, yet the last census says we're 68% of the U.S. population. Can we really claim equality and equal rights in this country? The constitutional rights are what protect us from the criminal justice system. That's what the Bill of Rights was intended for. So something tells me the African Americans aren't being afforded their rights, which makes it a white privilege. If you notice the thumbnail on these videos and t-shirts that'll be up on the ruthlesscircle.com shortly, it's two black fists with a pair of handcuffs. It says, white privilege in between. It's, Karina Hastings drew that up. She did a fucking badass job doing it. She's an awesome artist and an awesome woman, so big thanks, Karina. And white privilege is the seal, that airtight seal on that cage of poverty. We built that cage. We designed that cage. It's intended to keep the African Americans enslaved so we can use them for our own avarice. It's if we can't market the African Americans, we're not that interested in them as white people. You know what I mean? Even us that want to join the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff. Many of us do it for our own selfish nature, to put ourselves on Facebook and stuff. Say, oh man, I'm an activist now. Well, if a Black Lives Matter, why don't you tell me why they don't matter? Because there's a reason we have to hold those signs that say Black Lives Matter up. It's because they don't matter in this country. And they're the most important people to this country. in these videos, I describe all this, so white privilege can also be the key to unlock that cage. So it's we could see this in the Native Americans. We're far from bringing the justice the Native Americans deserve, but we have used that white privilege that once raped and pillaged their lands, and we've used it to return to them. You know what I mean? So put your black fist down and pick your pens up at the ballot box and to your senators and your congressmen. Really study the African American Holocaust. You know what I mean? We think there's progress being made, but African Americans still only hold 0.5% of the U.S. wealth. We're the richest nation in the history of the world. They only have less than 1 percentage point of that wealth. Same percentage, half a percentage point they had at the end of slavery. You know what? Known slavery. I'll describe in these videos. I'm also working on a book called The Ruthless Pursuit of Happiness. It's kind of the African Americans' journey through their history on this side of the world. You know what I mean? American history is black history. I read in a GED book in prison that, African Americans stepped foot on this soil before the Pilgrims did on the Mayflower. So, we can't keep studying, black history is written and told by the white man because we're always going to pin ourselves as the good guy. You know what I mean? We didn't abolish slavery. The African Americans did. We don't teach about the slave rebellions and the uprisings. It's that we think we just invested for 360 years in the institute of slavery, and the white men were all of a sudden like, what's in slavery today? That's not how it went down. We don't invest that kind of money into something for that many centuries and just one day want to end it. There was something that sparked that is not told in our history books. So in order to replace that, we got to use our logic. We got to use our logic. You know what I mean? And logic tells you, we can study capitalism and study the avarice in this country, that they just say, what's in slavery today? You know what I mean? Us white folks, 1865, 100 years later, Martin Luther King Jr. was still saying, free these chains. We're still enslaved people. He was killed in 1968. Was that 232? 53 years later, you know what I mean? We still have over half of the felony crime in this country is pointed at the African Americans, which are 14% of the population. So before we can say that justice and equality is coming to the African Americans, the ratio of those in the penitentiary system to those in the total U.S. population must become equal to the white man's. So, we can't say progress is made. It's to say that one race of people that only make up for 14% of this population make up for over half of the felony crime in this country. If we don't get to the root of that and the problem of it, we don't look at these people as we the people, and we don't think black lives matter. Our lives matter more than theirs. So, I'm got a website, theruthlesscircle.com. Be a daily blog. Like I said, trying to get an organization started, and something to bring some of this white privilege to the impoverished African American neighborhoods. I'm in right now in the Rogers County Drug Abuse Program, and us white folks pretend to be the victims of this war on drugs. But like I said, we're only 7 to 10% of the prison population. We're 68% of the population. So we're getting the front seat of justice. As justice comes to this war on drugs, and this war on drugs is nothing but the war on African Americans. So I'm obscene. I use a lot of curse words, but what we do to the African American people is totally obscene. So obscenities are necessary and needed. You know what I mean? You can't describe. We can't limit the freedom of speech when describing obscene environments and situations. Something that obscene requires obscenities to articulate. So got a twisted mind, but a twisted mind can untwist a lot of the web we've spun in this white supremacist society. So I believe I logically articulate this, and subscribe. It's the Ruthless Circle Radio, my YouTube, like I said. I'll have later the day. I'll have the ruthlesscircle.com up and going. So hope y'all enjoy.